Welcome to the First 40 Sports Show with the Goon Squad. It's Black Thor, Ice Water, and Puma. And the first story we're going to start out today is with Jim Brown. Of course, the NFL legend passed away last week. And I want to get the guys' feelings on Jim Brown and maybe a tribute on Jim Brown. I'm going to go to Black first on this one.
I'm gonna tell you, man. There was a period of time I don't think Jim Brown had a bigger fan than myself, bro. And I'll be honest with you. I remember buying his autobiography. Of course, his career. It's just to me, when you spoke of black masculinity, damn near should have been a picture of Jim Brown somewhere nearby, bro. Somewhere nearby. What he did in the field, the way he basically carried himself, his career, way he went into the movies, just how he handled things. My thoughts changed over the years. I'm not gonna go too deep into that, but I mean, the man was among men when it came to playing a sport. When you think about a sport now that where you're protected, you're guarded, the uniforms in the past weren't that strong back then. And if you think about it, if I remember correctly, I don't think he really had any type of injuries that kind of last beyond his football career. Nothing of the CTE, nothing of that nature. So, man, you think about it, so he was blessed in that sense. So, hell of a career, man. I remember the last time, I think it was 4 or 5, and it's longer than that. They had a Super Bowl at Giants Park in New Jersey. It wasn't called Giants Park. It was MetLife. They had Super Bowl there. So downtown New York, Manhattan, they had the NFL set up and do different things down there. So I remember my son was going on a field trip that day, and we took the bus with the school down. And I told the people as we take the bus when it was over the field trip, I'm gonna take him and I going to the streets of New York. That's exactly what we did, man. So about 6, 7 o'clock, I'm walking through Midtown New York, and we do an NFL experience. And we turn around, and there's Jim Brown standing there with a cane. And I have to admit, man, just to see him, I froze. Basically froze, looked at him like, wow, to be that close to him. So, rest well, my brother. Rest well.
Ice, I'm going to give it to you because I know you living in Ohio, Jim Brown is a household name there as far as Cleveland Brown football. So take it away, man.
Yeah, definitely a legend in football from the standpoint, as you mentioned, about the NFL. And you got to think about the limited time when African Americans were playing football at that time. And he was going through a lot where, they were gouging people in the eyes and trying to take him down. And you mentioned wearing equipment that really was not protective for a running back. You got a lot of stuff, but he was a tough guy. He was a man's man, as stated earlier. Hell of a running back. Didn't need a lot of years to play to prove that. And in Cleveland, they love him because he was just that tough. He represented what Cleveland was back in the day. And around the league, he's just a tough guy. Went on to leave the league early and became somewhat, I guess, you call him a social activist, also a little political. Still, from the standpoint of what he did socially, any man that can go into South Central LA or around in California and unite two rivals that have been going on forever, right? And bring them together to at least somewhat of a peaceful moment where they decided not to be as aggressive or tone down the violence says a lot to the man. I credit him for that. Some other things as well too, but that was major. And then of course, I think for me, why people came up in somewhat of an uproar when he started to discuss politics and start to meet with individuals that perhaps the majority of our culture didn't agree with, then people had a problem with it. But not really for myself, because after learning about him, I kind of knew who he was already. And if you really understood and read and did a little history, you really found out who he was. So he wasn't trying to fool nobody. It's just that you needed to understand that instead of thinking he was the wizard, he was just the man behind the curtain. That's what the Wizard of Oz always showed you, was a man behind the curtain. He was a man behind the curtain, but he was still Jim Brown. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I wrote an article on Ice Water website called The Reality of Sports a few years ago. And with my feelings, it was an open letter to Mr. Brown. I know his daughter responded to it, and I responded to her about it. But you get to a point, I know when we look at our icons, that you look at them as icons, and then your heroes become your peers. And so there were a lot of things that he did, and I share the same sentiment with Ice and with Black, where I looked at this guy as a man's man, and then as you grow and walk into your journey, you realize that he's just a man, and that he does have flaws. But I can't take away from, I think he's the greatest NFL player ever. Period. Nobody comes close to that. He was an activist. He did a lot of great things. And later on in life, as Ice talked about, to me, lost his way, and couldn't be surprised about it, but really was, because we were still looking for our Superman. And it was an NFL player in one of the NFL films that talked about, you know, he met Superman and he wears number 32 and he plays for the Cleveland Browns. And so, never going to take away from his prowess, his standing in the Hall of Fame, and his standing in life, and you know, being an activist and fighting and advocating for us. But I really was trying to muster up a lot of the feelings I would have as a family member leaving, or a great man. I wanted to put him in the pedestal of Muhammad Ali, and I just couldn't. But I do honor him. Rest in peace. We don't always agree with everybody that we meet in life, but I truly want to give him an honor and a send off, and wish his family well, and wish all his friends and his fans well with this passing. Any other thoughts, Ice? I mean, or Black, you kind of shaking your head a little bit.
You know what I mean? When you say Muhammad Ali, bro, I just got to react to that.
Yeah.
I think everything we said was well said, and I'm not going to play with it, man. I like you know what you said and what I said is what needs to be said. I just think sometimes when I hear Muhammad Ali, man, I just think of Muhammad Ali to me, real quick, transcend being sometimes human, bro. He really did. You think about it, he just got to transcend just being human to where who would have thought where he went, what he dealt with. And so I guess when I hear that sometimes I just get a little shaky. That's all.
Yeah. Let's go to the MLB report with Ice Water to see what's happening on that, and then we'll go to the WNBA report, and they just started the season, and all I saw on TV was Brittany Griner, Brittany Griner, Brittany Griner. So let's go with the Major League Baseball report with Ice Water.
Yeah, things are starting to perk up a little bit. American League East, Tampa Bay leads that division by 3 games over Baltimore. Yankees are 5 back, ladies and gentlemen. They're making a run. Those great Yankees making a run. In the Central, Minnesota leads the division by 3 games over Detroit. Cleveland's coming up behind them in 3rd place, behind them at 4.5 games back. In the West, Texas is leading Houston by 3 games. Amazing that Texas is still holding on so early. See what happens as they get closer to the All-Star break. And the Los Angeles Angels are 4.5 back. Again, you guys need to come on and pick it up a little bit, because Ohtani's on his way out if you don't improve that club and win more games this year. Moving on to the National League. The National League East, the Atlanta Braves are leading that division by 4.5 over the Mets. Miami is moved up to 3rd place. They're trailing by 5.5 in that division. In the Central, Milwaukee leads Pittsburgh by 2 games. The Cubs, only 5 back, still a chance. They can just kind of rally, put some things together, but we'll see how that happens. And finally, in the West, in the National League, the LA Dodgers are in 1st place. Who would have believed that, right?
This early. It's a matter of time.
Huh?
It's just a matter of time with them.
No doubt it is, but I mean, we got to get through this, man. So we when they're behind and they finally follow up this early, maybe they'll fall through and maybe let somebody else jump out there. I doubt it. Arizona trails in 2nd place by 2 games, and the San Francisco Giants are 6.5 back. Things are starting to heat up just a little bit, but like I said, the grill is on warm right now. We're not even heating up right now, so it's on warm. Don't forget your chicken wings on the grill.
Well, the Laker fans have to have a team to root for since the Lakers are out. Did I say that? Okay, Black, the WNBA report.
It's interesting. I know, I think it was last week or the week before, Ice was saying, American Record, using like the transfer portal in college sports. Man, the transfer portal came to the WNBA, man, because this player is all over the place. We think about it. Candace Parker is now with the Las Vegas Aces. And to me, that's illegal. That's illegal to put her on that team. I don't understand how they allowed that to happen. And Brianna Stewart left Seattle. She's in New York now with Jaquel Jones from the Sun. And I'm going to myself, how you allow that to happen too? But season kicked off last Friday. I think some games are going to be on ION network every Friday night, as well as ESPN. So they got that contract settled down. So if you're looking for them on Friday nights, it'll be there. Connecticut Center's 3-0. Even they lost Jones. I don't know how they're doing it, with spitting bubble gum, but they're 3-0. The first game they Liberty played, they got blown out. Maybe it's going to take them a while to get going back, but the second game they picked up. The Aces only played one game without their coach. They got one more to play without their coach due to the suspension. They didn't look too bad. But to me, I think it's going to come down to either, I know it's real early in the season, but when you stack teams up like this, I can't see the Aces or the Liberty not being there when it's all said and done at the end of the season. It'd be nice what these other teams do. Dallas is basically at this point 1-0. Chicago, after even losing a couple of players, they're 2-0. But I think that's going to change. But the interesting thing before I get out here, I want to say, remember a few years ago, the Minnesota Lynx was dominating the league?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about last night.
Yeah, they had a stronghold. I'm surprised the coach is still there, but they had a stronghold. You know who left? Some players started to leave. The first player that left, I don't want to say her name because I don't want to cry. But she left a while ago and went on to greener pastures. So I'll leave it there. But it's just amazing how, they were once a powerhouse and they're no longer a powerhouse in the league. And as you said earlier, Brittany Griner, it's good to see her back in uniform. Good to see her playing. She's saying all the right things. She's doing all the right things. More power to her. Good, have a good season, young lady.
Let's go to NBA basketball. And the Eastern Conference Finals is still going on. The Western Conference Finals, it's a done deal. Denver advances. Let's go to Black first. What are your thoughts, your eye test on the NBA playoffs?
I'm going to say this before I even get started, man. To our colleagues that do sports, you got to get off LeBron's job.
Ooh.
You got to, bro. You got to get off his job. I said this to my son yesterday. Denver won, swept them. There was more articles about LeBron retiring, what the Lakers are going to do next year, who's not going to be there. They treated Denver after that night like a stepchild. It's despicable, bro. Absolutely despicable the way they treated that team and the way they manhandled when they wanted to. The Lakers, they got swept. I don't care what LeBron says, whatever. He's always starting to break down a little bit. I respect him. He has to pick his moments. Yeah, you getting his 24 points early. Come the third quarter, you got nothing left in the tank, boss. You gotta kind of stretch out a little bit. But I think it's highly disrespectful, man. Denver is an all-around team, bro. And I kind of like the fact, and I should say I like it, but I remember when Djokovic got hurt towards the end of the season, that team matured. Because when he's not on the floor now, when he go 8 minutes without being on the floor and they don't lose any momentum, that team's put together well. And I think the coach is underrated. I think Malone, he's been coaching that team for a while. He has the pulse of that team. And I love the fact that time when they was playing the Suns and the owner took the ball and the news reporter asked him in a press conference, do you know who took the ball? He said, I don't give a blank, who took the ball. He said, I don't care. That right there, coach of the year. For that statement alone, I'm going to give you coach of the year. I'm going to switch over to the Boston Celtics. I know they were victorious last night. That team is way too much inconsistent for me. And when that happens, I got to go to the coach. He's basically, what's his name? Eris Spoelstra is basically taking him to school every single night. He's just not ready to be a head coach in the NBA. He's not. He's did a good job in the season. But at the same time, these players, man, they're cat and mouse. Now they're coming out saying that, they missed it. They didn't like the way the situation got handled with adults. Bro, if you didn't say that when they basically set them down and shut your mouth, I don't hear anything now. You're 3-1 down now. Now you want to come on and act like if he was there, it would have been different. No. At some point, you're a young man that get played overpaid to put a ball in a hoop. Get it done. Do what you got to do. Jason Tatum, I'm sorry, boss. I'm sorry, man. I don't need a night from you where you come out and look good. No, I need a full season and a full playoff run where you can put it together. But Miami is a very strong team, man. I was saying this to my son actually a couple of nights ago. I thought about this. I said, remember, you're gonna come with this poem. Remember years ago when Pat Riley went up to the ownership of the New York Knicks and said, I want to be the general manager of the New York Knicks. Mm-hmm. And he basically laughed him out the office. Laughed him out. Few months later, Pat Riley resigned, faxed it in. He didn't even show up. He just faxed it in. I no longer want to coach the New York Knicks. Took the Miami Heat job, won a championship there as a head coach. He's been an outstanding evaluate for Miami. When you think about, they have 7 guys in that team undrafted. Think about that for a second. 7 undrafted players on the Miami Heat. So Knicks, you made a huge mistake. You've been paying the price ever since. Huge. So Boston, yeah, you won last night, but that series is basically over. I can't say you won in another 3 games to take it, and they don't deserve to. And if you think, I heard Colin Cowherd, to me, is an idiot. He's going to come out and say point blank. Give him a call. I'll tell you on the phone. When you want to say Brad Stevens did a good job coaching that team, and you didn't even mention Udoka, what's the matter? He's black and you don't want to mention his name out of your mouth? Brad Stevens was a joke when he was coaching the Boston Celtics. They didn't respond to him. They didn't like him. That's why, what's the name, went upstairs. He went upstairs. Knock it off, man. Give credit where it's due. Yes, Udoka did something that we don't like or the team didn't like. I understand that. But do not undermine the fact what he did 1 year when he was basically coaching the Celtics. It's a joke for you to say Brad Stevens, he should come back down and coach them. Man, you want to see them really quit? Yeah, bring him down. Bring him down.
Ice, you and I have had some discussions offline about the shenanigans happening in the NBA. And I asked you the other night, I said, do you see what I see? And you're like, yeah, I see it. But let's have that discussion, bro.
All right, let's let the people. I said I see some of what you see. I didn't say I saw everything.
All right.
It's because you be trying to put stuff in people's mouths. You're a writer, you're a poet. You know what? And you are a man of many talents. So let's tell the story straight. So what I said to you was, I can see the point of how the way that referees make calls can give a certain team an advantage or a chance to come back if they're trailing or they're leading, wherever it may be. And then you went on to say you thought that it was a constant thing like a script or something to the point where it could direct, where it basically could fix the game. I said, no. I said, I do agree that if a team is down like whatever and they start making calling fouls on certain individuals, or they start directing the team a game somewhere where they're calling touch fouls or whatever it may be on other teams, I said they will have opportunities. Now, the question is whether or not those teams can take advantage of said situation.
Right.
That's different than saying it's fixed. I ain't going there. One, I won't say it's fixed because there's too much money involved. And if somebody really knew it was fixed, you think, you know how much money is being spent? But I can't say, like, what's the one old referee, one guy that was out there writing the book and all the other stuff, saying whatever and never been back to the league. I understand what he's saying, that they might get instructions or whatever. Or it might be something where they direct it where somebody's allowed to do something more than the other person. But I ain't going to say it's fixed. That's just me. So that's my conversation on that.
All right, man. Give me your eye test.
All right, real quick on the ice test. Lakers and Denver. Lakers did well to get here, get this far. What can you just say for me? The reserves and the reserve players of Denver have really stepped up. And anybody in the NBA, most people, I'll probably say 85% of the team players, if you leave them open from three-point land, they can hit that shot, bro. I'm talking about wide open. The Lakers played no D. They didn't come out. They checked the most important guys to try to anyway. But then they let the other guys shoot. So you got KCP, Caldwell Pope, who used to be a former Laker and was really hungry and trying to give all this off. So he's gonna play his butt off there. You have Mr. Brown that was playing way above his head, trying to prove that he wasn't a joke in Brooklyn when they got rid of him. Aaron Gordon had been waiting in the wings for a long time in Orlando, rising to the occasion. Jeff Green at times hitting that open jumper from the corner. Michael Porter Jr. with all that money that they gave me shows up periodically. So collectively with those 5 and 6 players, if you can get 2 or 3 of them to step up and kind of fill in what Murray and Jokic don't do, you can beat the Lakers, which is why they swept them. They did just enough to do that. And the Lakers just, they had guys that did not show up. And no wonder LeBron is frustrated. But hey, hats off to Denver for what they did. They did enough where, like I said, I told you the supporting cast was going to be the difference. If they got that effort from their supporting cast, Denver, that is, they were going to do well. So I see that. Boston, Miami. Hey, Boston on paper looks like they're the better team. We saw them coming off the run last year. Thought they were going to run well. You lost your coach. The new coach is showing you a little bit more immaturity in certain situations. And talk about Spoelstra in Miami, but as much as you want to say, you had all these undrafted players. You got guys stepping up for them. Vincent, guys like that. Adebayo doing what he had to do. But let's keep this 100, bro. Y'all don't like him, but give Jimmy Butler his credit, bro. Give that man his damn credit. Jimmy Butler. First it started with Milwaukee. It's a fluke. They didn't come to play. Then it went to the next series. Now we 3-1. Then we go in the finals. I mean, really, man, really. I never said he was the greatest player in the world, but the dude's a dog. He's a monster, and he put it on the line. He can play for me all the time. I will find another dude that can be a leader on the squad. I don't give a damn. I just need him to be on the squad and give me what he got. And Jimmy Butler's done that. I get off this as we watch this game. Hopefully it will be over soon. I'll just get off of this. The MVP was Mr. Embiid. At one point, he had a chance to play with Jimmy Butler. And he complained that Jimmy Butler, him and another gentleman, Jimmy Butler was taking too many shots. And now you are where you are because you are too damn selfish. But you MVP. That's all that matters, right? Have a great evening.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I want to drop this in, man. I thought about this when I was talking, man. I know I said earlier about the LeBron jock. I got to give out kudos to Mark Jackson as a commentator. Because that game, he was calling out LeBron, man. He said LeBron is not moving. He said LeBron is hanging around the three-point line. LeBron's not boxing. I've never heard. I'll take the word never back, but consistently heard an announcer, a commentator, basically point out the flaws in LeBron's game consistently during the game. And Mark Jackson wasn't afraid to do such. That's the first time. And he's being paid by ABC, ESPN. And we know they love themselves on LeBron, but he was right. There was a rebound that came down. LeBron standing around. He didn't even go down to the paint, looking around like this, like, I'm not a box anybody out. You know what I mean? He's standing at the three-point line, not moving. Come on, man. I'm talking about you want the 90, you're the 90 percentile of players in the NBA, bro. You may want to drop that down to 80%. Let's get real.
He's 38. I think people forget he's 38. He's old.
Exactly. You may want to drop that down to about 780, bro. You're not in the top 90% anymore. Nah, I'm not. I don't think so. There's a time when you might have been 97, 98, but no, sir, bro. You're not there. Not anymore.
Yeah. Let's go to another 38-year-old who just announced his retirement this week, Carmelo Anthony. I'm going to go to Ice first. I'm going to let Black stew in this one because we still mad at Carmelo Anthony being a Knick or perpetrating a Knick when he was there for 6 or 7 years. But I was looking at his track record, man, and I wanted to, pose this question. Ice, is he a Hall of Famer or not?
Down the line, maybe. They're looking for some people. Because like this year, they was like, I don't know. A lot of people talking about Chris Webber and all the other stuff. So down the line, eventually, yeah, he can get in. It may not be right away. But before he get too old and lose Social Security, he can probably get in. But he played hard. And y'all, I'm just going to skate this. And I'm gonna editorialize this real quick. Knicks fans mad because you said you mad he was a Knick, but he played the way New York expects you to play. Look at Jalen Brunson right now. Y'all make no changes. He gonna do all he do, and it's gonna be the same damn results I had before. But he gonna be pretty good at times, 6-7 years till you make decisions. So you can get mad at the player all you want to. Carmelo did what Carmelo's supposed to do. At some point, as a general manager, and you guys already know this, talk about it forever. You had to make decisions where you had to surround good players with other good players. You just have to. Ask Allen Iverson if he had better people to play with, would he have possibly won the championship? Leave that right there.
Two things. What I used to get mad at Carmelo with doing is he would get the ball, bring the ball down the court. It's 24 seconds in the shot clock. And he'll dribble it to 20 to 22 seconds, then drop it off to somebody who wasn't expecting to pass. They expected him to shoot. He would do it all the time. And he said, just He just burn me up. Like, pass the ball, pass the ball. But here's some of the stats: 10-time All-Star, um, 2-time All NBA second team, 4-time All NBA third team, scoring champion 2013, NBA All Rookie first team, social justice champion in 2021, part of the NBA 75th anniversary team. He did win in college. He did win a national championship, outstanding player in college, consensus All American. He's done a lot, Olympic team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Black, Hall of Famer?
For me, no. Will he get in? Yeah, at some point. But Hall of Famer, no. I mean, what you just ran off. Keep in mind, Ben Simmons was a Hall of Famer. Well, not a Hall of Famer, All Star twice, right? Where is he now? So I don't. All Star doesn't mean that much to me anymore, like it used to. I just look at Carmelo, and it's like Carmelo basically played to himself. He just played to himself. When I say that, meaning that Carmelo is always about Carmelo. So all those numbers, yeah, they're gonna look like that. And Ice is right. He played in a situation with a Garden. Yeah, that's what they wanted. He's from New York. They wanted him there. They brought him back. But what did he do for the team, bro? For himself, yes, you have the stats. So based on how the NBA handles the Hall of Fame, absolutely. I'm surprised they won't put him in tomorrow night on that matter. But to me, if you want to talk about a pure Hall of Famer, no, sir, bro. No, sir. I mean, when you even think about players, top 75, when the last time, realistically, ask yourself, when the last time you even thought of Carmelo Anthony? You thought about scaring. I think of Joe Dumars when I think of Carmelo Anthony. Really, I'll think of him first. I'll think about the microwave coming off the bench of Detroit. Let's get honest, bro. He wasn't even a starter. If I think of Carmelo, he wasn't a special enough. Like you said, he held the ball. Remember, like you said, he would hold the ball for like 15 to 17 seconds per time possession down the court. You're not being coached. Why even show up for training? So I'm serious, man. I mean, his man had to beg himself back into the league because nobody wanted you 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, going into Hall of Fame, think you've done something, you accomplished something. But and I'm not saying because you didn't win a championship, but look around with the peers that you came in with that took their game serious, that learned to play with others, not play by themselves. They have rings, bro, and you don't. You didn't get close to sniffing one. And I remember when Carl said this a long time ago, and he's with the Denver Nuggets of all teams, and he traded him. He said, "You can't win with Carmelo Anthony. You just can't." And can he spell the word defense?
Could not play a lick of defense.
Can he spell it?
No.
Does he even know it starts with the letter D? So guess what? If you want to put him in there, I mean, there's a bunch of bums as far as I'm concerned at NBA Hall of Fame. Let's keep it real. Add him to the list. But you talking about what Hall of Fame should mean? You talk about what the Hall of Fame maybe meant 10, 15, 20 years ago? Hell no, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I remember when he got to OKC, and I guess they were talking about putting him on the second string, or that they needed defense. And I think he made a comment like, "They don't pay me to play defense." It was close to that. They paid me to score. And, he took offense of, coming off the bench. And I thought he should have come off the bench based on his skills. We want to welcome Dewitt Scott to the First 40 Sports Show. And Dewitt Scott is a friend of mine I work with. Found out that he played in the G League. He's out of Chicago. I know that we're going to spend our questions segment and asking him a few questions. But I want to find out from you, get your eye test of the NBA playoffs right now. LA just got bounced out. You got Boston trying to hang in there with Miami. So your take on the NBA playoffs right now?
Man, honestly, I'm surprised. At the start of the playoffs, if somebody would have told me that Denver would be in the playoffs, would be in the finals, essentially waiting on Miami to beat Boston, I wouldn't have thought that. I did pick Denver for the finals just because I thought they were the strongest team in the West, but I initially picked Boston to win it all. They on the ropes, I didn't think that the Lakers would make it to the Western Conference Finals. And then when they did get there, I didn't think they would get swept. Miami has just surprised me, and I think everybody else. I think they surprised themselves a little bit. Going from the play-in game to just being dominant throughout the playoffs. So the main word I can say, man, I'm surprised.
I was wondering why people were surprised, because I know me and Black have been talking about this throughout the whole NBA season, especially after December, Denver took the lead in the Western Conference in their conference in their division, and they never looked back. But nobody was talking about Denver. And I know Black mentioned earlier that even though Denver won, nobody's talking about Denver. They're talking about LeBron and retirement. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you're right. Denver has been the best team really all year in the West. I mean, they've been dominant both sides of the ball. They got good coaching, which I think is often overlooked. Now, the LeBron statement about him, he didn't say retirement, but a lot to think about. I don't believe for one bit LeBron is close to retirement. I just don't see that happening. He's made it clear that he wants to play with his son. Right? He's made that clear. And on top of that, nobody retires with their last game scoring 31 in the first half. Right? Leaves the game after scoring 40 points and playing 48 minutes. He played 47 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the statistics. LeBron just going all out. I think a lot of people are forgetting that he's 38 years old. And even though we see him do all these great things on the court and these miraculous things on the court, a 38-year-old body playing for 20 years, it's got to catch up with you sometime. So, but one of the things that just really kind of got me is that when you saw all the talking heads on television, all they were talking about LeBron. It was really kind of disrespectful not to acknowledge that Denver, this is their first time in NBA history getting to the finals, and how hard they worked all year. Djokovic not getting the just due of just manhandling, LA and just manhandling everybody in the playoffs. So I was just astounded that the sports shows, now we know that they live and breathe LeBron James. That if LeBron is not in the playoffs or involved, the NBA doesn't matter to him.
Yeah. No, I agree. That and Mike Malone, he touched on that after the game one win, right? He said we win, and then everything is about, the Lakers are fine, Lakers okay, Lakers made an adjustment, Lakers fought back, and he's like, I mean, we won. Like, you can't even tell sometimes.
I heard you said he played in the G League. I wanted to ask him a question for the most part, because I was saying earlier that Miami has 7 undrafted players playing. I'm assuming some of them are probably playing in the G League. So if you're a once player G League yourself, how do you look at that and how you feel about seeing these cats basically getting an opportunity to basically make it to the big league on the big floor, and the way they're playing now throughout the playoff series?
So personally, which you're right, I played in the G League 2008 and 2010, so it's been some time. But to see those guys, all those undrafted players, all those unheralded players, to be able to play on that stage at that level, it makes me think a lot about Miami's player development, right? Because that's not easy. It's not easy for them to take the route they have and to make it to where they are. It says a lot about Miami's front office, about Spoelstra, about the coaching staff. And I'm excited for those guys, man, because you can't imagine what they've been through just to make the team, let alone to be here.
My question is not, I guess, a little bit around that, but I wanted to ask, so you played, you from Chicago, right?
Yep.
What high school?
Whitney Young.
Okay, so that's perfect. So, we're old school back in the day, right? You still a young man in a number of ways. But when you think about Chicago, and I'm gonna advance this a little bit more. Think about Whitney Young. You think about Simeon. You think about Ferry coming down the line. Westinghouse. I'm from Ohio, so we played a little bit of ball, and then of course New York, East Coast. Back in the day, it was so hard to really meet the guys that the top-notch guys, right? And then it evolved where Adidas and Nike coming along and whatnot, and now they start going to camps and whatnot. But now, what is your opinion on this? These young men are rock stars. I mean, everybody you're playing against. I mean, sometimes you need to get these guys less parade All-American back in the day. But now it's like every week, who's the guy over here. They're rock stars doing their own videos. What's your take on the way things have progressed?
What I think about the game, at the high school level nationally, I think that you got a lot of young guys, the majority of these good guys who are not really, they're not there in terms of IQ. They don't have the fundamentals. They're not learning the basics of the game, and AAU has a lot to do with it. Then the best players, they do 1 year college and then they're gone. I think that the high school players now, particularly in Chicago, are actually behind when it comes to the IQ side of the game.
Wow.
Athletically, yeah. Skill-wise, up there with everyone else. I went to college in the state of Indiana, and I seen how their high school basketball is as compared to Chicago, right? And I was in the era with Will Bynum and Sean Dockery. Yeah. I was in the era Eddie Curry, Shannon Brown. Like I spent my high school years playing against guys that went to the NBA, right? But when I went to the state of Indiana and I watched the way they do basketball is a religion over there, right? Over here, it's just kind of get the ball and run and go. Coaches they're not really students of the game. And I think it shows. Nationally, it shows, right? So even if we just, and I know I'm getting long on the answer, but I'm gonna connect this point. In my opinion, the 4 best basketball players in the NBA are foreigners, right? Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Luka, right? So to me, that's a sign that in the younger stages, high school in particular, we're doing something wrong in America, right? The best ball players in the world, the 4 best ball players are foreigners, right? I mean, you could throw in LeBron, but he's 20 years in. Jason Tatum, I mean, he's a first teamer, but the last 4 MVPs, I think, right? I want to say Embiid this year, Jokic last 2 years, and then before that it was Giannis. I think that's a sign of high school basketball nationally. We off somewhere.
If you don't mind, I'll piggyback on that. I think what really happens, man, is that these kids and their parents know that basically, if you can get to the NBA, you do 1 year of college, that's $10 million for 3 years, bro. And that's the mindset. You know, like you said, they're not trying to learn the fundamentals. They're trying to basically get there. I work with cats, man, that they're pushing their sons out there, basically forgetting the educational part. So the fundamentals kind of start with just kind of learning education. They forget all that, man. They want their kids out there for the most part to grab that 3-year deal of $10 million, where you get $3.5 million a year. And they all think it's a cat. I don't want to say his name. I can't even think of his name, but he was on UConn this year. His father spent a lot of time trying to get him to go. But if you watch UConn throughout the tournament, a guard, he doesn't have it here. He doesn't have it in the heart. If he starts the game, he's not playing well, he finds a way to go sit on the bench and soaks for a period of time. That's not going to fly in the NBA. And I looked at a mock draft the other day. They got him like ranked number 15 going to Orlando. Are you kidding me? He's not ready. He's not close to being ready. So my point is, sometimes when you could just throw up, make some baskets and make it look good, they think you're there, and then you get to the NBA and you flop.
Yeah. One question I had, Dewitt, is that I've been in Chicago since 1989, and what I noticed is like the talent in Chicago go elsewhere out of Illinois to colleges. And so am I right on that trend? And what can high school coaches and universities do to keep the talent in Illinois and in Chicago?
So yeah, you're right about that. The top talent, if you want to talk about those top guys, those McDonald's All-Americans that just under, they usually leave the state. And the truth of the matter, Chicago, the way, you know, as a public league player myself, Chicago really is all about, man, when it comes to recruiting, who you know, and honestly, how much money you got. You know, it's a lot of backdoor dealing and willing in Chicago basketball. And if you're not cool with certain families, I'm not gonna say no names. If you're not cool with certain families in the city, or if you're not willing to do something that you really shouldn't be doing, it's gonna be hard for you to get a good inner city player. You know what I mean? And that's been the truth of the matter. You know, in my era, I think the best player that stayed home was D. Brown, and he went to Illinois. Other than that, I mean, Luther Head did stay home. He went to Illinois. Other than that, I mean, those top players, those NBA caliber players, man, they was out of here.
I want you to kind of walk through, I know you said this a while ago, walk through what your experience was in the G League, and to give some folks who are not going to make the NBA right away, what it's going to be like to walk through and go through that process trying to get to the NBA.
Man, now I can write a dissertation on that one. So my path to and through the G League, I went to Division I school. I played 4 years of Division I, but it was a small Division I. It's known as Purdue Fort Wayne. I think right now they're in the Horizon League. Most people know the sister school, IUPUI. And we were in the conference of Oakland, Oral Roberts, all those schools. But in my time there, I was a leading scorer. my years there. I had 1,000 points in less than 3 years. All of those sort of check mark things. So when it came time when I finished, and it was like, well, what am I going to do? Should I go to Europe? Should I try the G League or what? Europe, I didn't really get offers that I felt were like good, right? A lot of people say, man, go overseas, and they don't understand what they're really saying, right? So the G League for me at the time is called the D League, right? I'm dating myself, right? The G League for me, I said, well, you know what? I played in the city of Fort Wayne. I was well known, like I said, leading scorer for my team. And Fort Wayne had a G League team, the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, which is the G League team for the Indiana Pacers. I said, well, I'm gonna try to make this team. And what I did was it was three workouts over 4 days for the G League team. Right. The first day was an invitation only workout from guys from all around the country, UNC Charlotte, guys from all different schools. You had to be invited to come. I got an invitation. I went and I played well. Right. I played well. And the coach was like, you play well, you're on the radar. And I said, well, I'll be back for the open tryout, which is in 2 days. And the open tryout usually is not something that people take seriously. Right. At that time, G League teams, they were forced to have an open tryout. It was just part of the bylaws or whatever. They never really took it seriously. It's a bunch of neighborhood guys who just show up and think they can play. All you have to do to get into the open run was pay $150. That's it. Right. And I had this background of my college career, but for me, I wasn't taking nothing for granted. So I paid the $150 to get into the open tryout. And it's a 2-day tryout. And the first day is when they eliminate the bums. All right, man, you didn't play in high school, you play on the playground, you think you know what you're doing, you don't. They trim it down to 25. That second day, usually those 25 guys are all Division I players that played college and played at a decent level. And now we're battling, these 25 guys are battling to get one spot.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, the way the G League worked at that time, the open tryout, you had to take one guy from the open tryout. So now the second day is competitive. I think it was we started at 8 a.m., we was done at 4, with the idea of all 25 of us trying to chop each other down to get to be that one person chosen. It's a lot of drills. It's a lot of 5-on-5, 3-on-2, 2-on-1, any sort of basic drill you could think of. That's all day long. And that was the second day. And for me, it was the third day of 4. So it was intense. But I was the one guy chosen from the open tryout, right? So now you're chosen from the open tryout. I'm exhausted and you're happy. But what that means is that you're chosen to go to training camp in the G League, right? And you get the invitation to training camp. And I don't know what it's like now, but when I was there 2008, now you got 17 guys in training camp fighting for 10 spots, right? So I just had this fight to get here, right? And now I just did that just to get an invitation to training camp. And now 17 of us for 10 spots. And some of those guys are returners, right? So they're not losing their spots. Right. So now it's 17 for 10.
Yeah, I didn't realize how hard it was just getting into a tryout to get to the 17. So what happens after the 17 when you're invited to the camp?
Yeah, you're invited to training camp. 17 people fighting for 10 spots. And I think when I went, there were 3 guys who were returning. So you kind of knew they were going to come back. So that shortened it to 14 guys fighting for 7 spots. And training camp is a week long. And at that time, it had 2 cuts. You had a cut halfway through, I think like day 3, and then you had a cut the last day of training camp. And man, it's just a battle because at that point it's in November. Training camp was in November, and if you don't make the team in November, all other jobs are gone. There's no going overseas in November, and it's no other D League team in November. So this is it. This is literally like if you don't make this cut, you're going home. Now you got to explain to friends and family, man, you was good and you used to play. Why you ain't playing now? You said you was going such and such, and all of that. So I battled all the way through, and I was one of those last guys to make it. So on my team, I didn't get cut. I made the opening day roster, and I stayed on the roster all season long. I was never put on waivers. My first year, I was never put on waivers. I was never cut from the team. I was there for every single game, suited up every game, played. We had 50 games. I played in 49. And that was my first year. And it was a hell of an experience, man.
So as far as how they take care of you, as far as the tryouts, and then you making a team, and then what's the pay like? I want to get down because you're fighting, you're scrapping for your life there, and then the pay you get when you finally make it.
Yeah, so the pay at that time, 2008, the pay was trash. Man, it was trash. You're not getting a lot. So at that time, the way it worked was you had 3 levels. You had an A player, a B player, and a C player. And by D League rules at that time, you can only have so many A players. I think you can only max out 3 A players. And then you can only have, I think, 3 B players, and the rest had to be C, that's 4 guys. And the way G League contracts worked at that time, you don't sign a contract with the team, right? You sign a contract with the overall league.
Okay.
Right? Before training camp. So you sign a contract that says, if you make this team, this is what you will make, and you will be slotted A level, B level, C level. And then wherever you go for the rest of that season, that contract follows you. Right? So if you got traded from one team, you're this contract, whatever you sign, it goes with you. And you're only offered, you only get one offer. You don't get a chance to negotiate any of that. The D League front office at that time, again, I don't know what they do now, but in 2008, the D League front office take a look at who you are, where you came from, what your accolades were, and your route to get to the D League, and then they decide if you're an A, B, or C player, right? So me coming from the open tryout, paying my $150 and being out there with the winos and whomever else from the park, who really couldn't play, I was slotted as a C level player.
Okay.
Signed my contract as a C level player. Now I'm in. C level player at that time, after taxes, every 2 weeks you brought home about $1,000. Right? That was C level. At that time, B level after taxes, you got about $1,500. A level after taxes, you got about $2,000 every 2 weeks. Right? D League pay schedule was just like the NBA pay schedule. You get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And that's where you were. So money-wise, it's not a lot. At the same time, all of your living expenses are paid for. Right? Your rent, all of your utilities, every single thing. You got cable, you got nice apartments, furniture, whatever it may be, 100% taken care of. And then at that time, you got a per diem stipend. On the road, you would get a per diem stipend of $40 a day, and that was given to you in cash when you got on the plane or when you got on the bus. Right? So if it was a 10-day road trip, every player gets on the bus, they hand you an envelope, $400 in cash. And that was really the pay.
People they just think it's all glamorous, and you put it on the line. I mean, you put your body on the line. I tell people all the time. Like I was telling you before, I remember I used to watch a lot. I used to be a sports journalist, so I used to watch a lot of high school basketball. I saw Garnett, Fields, and Wright when they played with Farragut, and it was amazing just to watch them. You knew Garnett was ready then. But my question to you is, that level is that level, right? So you got some guys that you said is coming off the court or playing their all world at the snack bar in the gymnasium, right? They think they all that. You get some guys that played a little bit, even D1 think they know how to play on that level. So my question is, explain to us from your perspective, did they have a shot clock in the G League when you played?
Yep, 24 seconds. Every single rule the NBA had is what we had.
Okay, so that works to my question, or break this down for me. People really just think you just run up and down the court and push around. Explain to them how it is to hold the ball for close to whatever it comes down to 21 seconds without turning it over, get a good shot, and then when the person that take the shot, you got a dude that's 6'6", 225 leaning on you, and you still got to get the shot off and expect to make the shot. Explain the physicality of professional basketball to people that have no idea how hard it is to do what I just explained.
Yeah, man. So you actually hit it right on the head. The physicality and what it takes to just, for one basic possession, right? Just a basic possession, meaning come down and get a good shot. It's so much that goes into that. Especially at the D League level, the G League level, right? Everybody at that level is on the cusp of the NBA, right? They just lacking talent, or some of them have attitude issues or whatever it may be, right? So I mean, these guys, we talking 7-footers, 6'9", 6'10", handling the ball, run like a deer, put their arm in the rim. And you have to come down and run a set to get a good shot in 24 seconds, right? It took you 7 seconds just to get across half. Now we down to 17 seconds, right? You're gonna run a pick and roll because that's what basketball is the past 12 years. Everybody run a pick and roll, right? You're gonna run a pick and roll. After you run a pick and roll, the whole thing now is the ball handler has to read the defense, right? What's the big gonna do? Is he gonna drop? Is he gonna step up? Is he gonna hedge hard? Is he gonna switch? You know what I'm saying? After you make that decision, what is the trailing guard doing? Is he going over the top? Is he going underneath? Right? Is a switch? Are they rotating from the opposite corner? It's all a read. Once that ball handler gives up the ball on the read, you probably got about a good 6-7 seconds to do something. Right? And the guy closing out on you is an athlete. he is an athlete, right? So with that 6 or 7 seconds, we need you to get the shot up, drive on the closeout, make a play, make the right pass, draw a foul, or whatever. You got it's 24 seconds goes by so quickly. In an offensive set. And these guys are big and strong. And like I say, they put the arm in the rim. So all that, people watch on TV like, oh man, why didn't he drive? People don't realize on TV, you watch it from a bird's eye view.
Right.
So the viewer can see every single lane. It's like driving in traffic. You can see everything, right? But when you're on the ground and these guys put their arms out as far as they can, you can't really see anything, right? And it's on you to get to the bucket. Okay.
Great analogy and great explanation. Because unless you understand that, because you got a lot of fly-by-night, armchair, whatever, lounge chair quarterbacks that swear that they could do the same thing. They don't understand when people are successful, when people are really on another level, how great they must be mentally, physically, and overall to get that off. Because even to the 12th man in the NBA can play.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people are missing the point. Because you say, if you go in the G League, you saying, bro, I get my shot, hell. You know what I'm saying? And like you just walked in there, they put you on the squad. You had to earn that.
Man, every single bit. And like I say, everybody in the G League is a former Division I player. All of them were one of the best players on their team. Right. Some of them were not in the NBA because it was just a numbers game.
Yeah.
Right. They were high character, they could play, but the team, they maxed out. They just say, hey man, go to the G League for a few games to get you some experience or whatever it may be. So man, everybody at that level it's cutthroat because everybody trying to move up. The scorekeeper trying to move up.
One last question for you, man. I'm a high schooler. I'm playing ball, and I'm trying to get to the next level, college, and then eventually my dream is to be an NBA player and to follow the process. What advice would you give me coming up through the ranks?
Man, a whole lot. Number one is defend. If you can play defense, you will play on anybody's team. Right? You're playing a PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker came out of college in 2006. Right? So we talking PJ Tucker been a professional basketball player for 17 years. And how many times you see him shoot the ball?
Right.
Right? So I would tell any kid, defend. And most kids don't care about defending. They don't think about that. Right? And I would tell them that, man, it's not about running how fast you run or how high you jump, right? The main things that you can do, right? You got to be the first person in the gym. You have to be the first person there, and you got to be the last person to leave, right? Like I used to tell kids, you have it in practice, and in practice everybody bring it up. They say, man, bring it up, right? 1, 2, 3, team, whatever it may be. When you bring it up, for you, that's halftime, right? That's halftime. Practice is over, everybody starting to disperse and go to the bleachers. Now it's time for you to go get the ball. And because now this is the second half for you. You know what I'm saying? That would be a key piece of advice. And then third thing is, man, you got to be a student of the game. Right? You got to be a student of the game. When I talk to the kids, sometimes I ask them who's their favorite player. And they say, oh, man, my favorite player is, I don't know, Jason Tatum. Okay, cool. What school did he go to? Some of them might know Duke. Oh, yeah, where's he from? What city is he from? I don't know. What shoes does he wear? I don't know. What did he do in high school? I don't know. man, what this your favorite player, or you just, you know what I'm saying? And it's much easier for them now. They got social media. I mean, Jason said these athletes show you what they eat for breakfast in the morning. Right? Man, study that player. Study, you know, and not just the stars. Like I said, you need to look at PJ Tucker. You need to look at Jeff Green, who's been in the league for 15 years now, and it's still effective, right? You got to look at I'm thinking about Boston, the big boy, Robert Williams. Right? Because 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be Jason Tatum.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if you concentrate on being Robert Williams, or you concentrate on being Al Horford, which I know he's a big time player, you know, or Derek White, man, you would have a chance, particularly if you defend.
And then one thing, what's name looking good, 81 now.
Who's that?
Martha Stewart.
I didn't see that, bro. You said what?
What you doing, boy?
She running like that?
That's a lot of photoshopping, boy. That's a lot of.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so, boss.
Don't know, boss.
I don't think so.
I didn't see it, bro.
Let me tell you something. Don't sleep on some of his ages, bro. Don't sleep. You know. We're all going to get this someday.
There's a lot of hard cocktails at night, and maybe an edible of the weed to get me going on that one.
Just one?
Oh, yeah, maybe 1 or 2. Good.
Well, y'all said just one edible?
Yeah, get the old machine cranking on that one.
Hey. I ain't been high since 90. It's gonna take 2.
81. Good Lord.
Hey, it's gonna take at least one and a couple good hits of Hennessy. Or Rayon.
Put me in, coach.
Put you in.
Hey. And the only way that may happen along with the edibles and that is she going to have to start the festivities. So I'm gonna leave it at right there.